Welcome to the Mandalore. That's a teaser for you. Something big is coming. It's a definitive podcast for Star Wars and Disney Plus, but soon we're going to be the definitive podcast for Obi Wan Kenobi. 2 weeks time, Star Wars fans. 2 weeks. And Obi Wan Kenobi's upon us. That's close enough that we can feel it in the Force. Does that mean that we're Force sensitive, Vizsla? We're never going to tell. I am Siber Wren.
And I am D. Vizsla.
Let's get into some news because it's been a few weeks since we last talked to you guys. What do you got for us, Vizsla?
Lots of Disney Plus news rolling out recently.
Yeah,
I think the one big one that's been fully released by Lucasfilm, so we know this is actually legit. But Ahsoka has officially begun production a couple days ago.
Right.
So, great little picture of Filoni's hat hanging on a director's chair with Ahsoka's logo on it, and it is off and running. So, definitely expect that probably next year. I'd say I would venture to guess right now it's going to debut May the 4th, probably next year.
Wow. And let the speculation begin as to where that story is going to go and how interconnected it's going to be with The Mandalorian.
Yep, exactly. I think it's going to be a continuation of Rebels, but definitely tie into the timeline of The Mandalorian somehow. Yep.
Well, probably the episode that we saw her in. I mean, we saw her Mandalorian, and then we saw her in Book of Boba Fett, so it's got to come after those, I would imagine. After those scenes.
Yes. Yep.
So,
but I think again the rumor is that it's possible that when we saw her in Mandalorian could be before what we see her at the very end of Rebels. You know, when her and Sabine leave, like she gets the location or she gets whatever information she got in Mandalorian, then goes and picks up Sabine, and then heads off to look for Ezra. So that could be what that is. Right. They're off looking for Ezra.
And speaking of Rebels, I am finished it now, so we should probably do a special Rebels episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Rebels is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I need to go back and rewatch it. Yeah.
Do a refresher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, that's good Ahsoka news. What else we got?
Well, Andor, which doesn't have a date, a release date quite yet. We figure we're probably going to get that at Celebration here in a couple weeks, but it's expected to land in fourth quarter, which in Disney's terms, fourth quarter is August, September, October. So sometime in August, late August, early September is the rumored release date for that. But
okay, cool.
But apparently there are rumors that season 2 is actually going to start production this fall as well.
Whoa!
Before season 1 even comes out.
Well, because they're planning it to be a few seasons anyway, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing too, is that apparently there was a leak that the original plan was 5 seasons of Andor, but now apparently they've shortened that, and I think it might be due to the episode length in the seasons, because apparently we're getting, I think, 12 episodes of this first season of Andor.
Okay.
So because of how many episodes we're getting, it seems like they've shortened it to only 3 seasons. But they are going to be shooting and cranking these out. Apparently, because they're really ecstatic by how these have turned out. So we'll see.
Well, that's always exciting. It sucks that if we're going to lose seasons, but maybe they're just cramming so much in. I'm trying to think of, like, you think of Rogue One when we got introduced to Cassian Andor, and you got to think how much happened to lead up to that story point in Rogue One. Like, was he really out there, fighting and working with, building up the rebel sectors and stuff all up before we get to Rogue One? That's what I was wondering about, is how much went on before we got to that point in the movie. But apparently there's quite a bit of story to tell.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he says it even in the movie that he's been fighting since he was 6 years old.
Yeah,
so,
all his life.
As you know from Rebels, I mean, there are cells all over the galaxy rising up, and he's one of the ones, if not the main one, responsible for recruiting all the rebels. So I think there's going to be a lot of, spy work in this. It's very much like they talk about an espionage type show. So
that's going to be so cool.
It's going to be
fun.
We
really haven't gotten that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really think it is going to be the other side. We saw the emergence of the Rebel Alliance within the Star Wars Rebels TV show, but this being live action, we're actually going to see it in live action, truly how the Rebel Alliance is built. I think that's what this show is going to be about.
It's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that too.
Yep.
All good stuff coming our way.
Yeah, and then we got some Obi Wan news here as we approach, like you said, 2 weeks from now. There has been some finally we've seen some promotions. We've seen Ewan and Hayden out promoting the show right now. It's in Europe. They're running around Germany and England and stuff like that, doing some press.
Right.
And one of the interviews, apparently, which was pretty cool, is that Hayden was asked about the lightsaber fighting, and he basically revealed that it's very close, very reminiscent of the prequel fighting styles.
Ooh.
So we're gonna see Obi-Wan and Vader when they fight. It's not gonna be like what you saw in Episode 4. It's gonna be some major intense fighting, I think.
Well, you would think. I mean, it should every time we see a lightsaber fight, it should improve upon the last one that we saw, because choreography gets better, stuntmen and everybody get better. Like it should. Like, why wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. But he's going to be in his Vader suit, so that'll be even more cool to see.
Yes, very true. Yeah. Well, it makes you wonder. They probably took some liberties maybe with his Vader suit to allow him to move a little bit better. Because even in Rogue One, when we finally see Vader really fight in a sense, but he's not fighting against somebody with a lightsaber, he's just fighting a bunch of rebels. But even in there, you can see that he was still a little bit restrictive of how he was moving. I wonder if they're going to give Hayden, because the way Hayden moved in Episode 3, I mean, he was flying around and doing all kinds of movements and stuff like that. So,
well, you have to think realistically within the story. He's got his legs chopped off, his arms chopped off. Like he's more mechanical. So there's going to be, I don't think he's going to be able to flow as fluidly as he normally would, because of the mechanical parts. He's going to have to adjust his fighting, I think.
Sure.
To work with what he has. So I think he's going to be stronger, and he's going to use the dark side of the Force blade. I just think the suit is going to be restricting no matter what. And it makes me wonder, with you bringing this point up, yes, we saw him at the end of Rogue One. We saw him a way more action-packed version of Vader than we ever saw before. And again, that's because of newer technology and they were able to figure it out. But I have a feeling that maybe Darth Vader, his first incarnation, he's still fairly mobile, but as he gets older and as his body gets sicker and starts, decaying more or dying more, they have to keep adding more to the suit, so he gets bulkier and is, unable to move as much. And that's why that could lead up to the original trilogy when we don't see him as mobile anymore. Look at him in Return of the Jedi. I mean, he's barely moving at all anymore. So, maybe it's a progression like that.
But I mean, he moved pretty good against Luke in Empire. I mean, he was,
but stiff. Like he looked stiff, right?
I mean, in some parts. I mean, he still was, swinging that saber pretty hard. But I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a Vader we've never seen before. I think it's going to be. It's going to be Hayden. You're going to completely tell that it's Anakin in the Vader outfit. Like that, I totally think that. I mean, look at how he fought. Technically, I mean, how he fought Ahsoka in Rebels. I know it's animation, but he had complete control over his abilities then.
Yeah.
And this is after that. So he's going to be very mobile. I think he's going to be very mobile.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
and plus, with Obi-Wan's going to fight that style, I mean, he have to be in order to counter what Obi-Wan's got. So I think it's going to be pretty good. again, also in these press junkets, there's been a little bit of a hint that this might not be the last time we see Obi Wan played by Ewan McGregor.
Oh, what's that mean?
Apparently they always ask him, like, so this is it for, right? This was good to come back and close it out, and he's like, I don't know, it might not be the end. I'd be open to do it again. So don't be surprised. I think if this is successful, I think that we could see some more Obi-Wan stories.
I mean, I think I remember seeing him say that in one of his interviews too, because like he loved coming back to the character and getting to play it again. And why not? Like, this show is going to be massive. This might be Disney's biggest Star Wars, even bigger than Mandalorian to date. And with that success, of course, Disney's going to be looking at the dollar signs. Oh yeah, let's keep going. But they also have to look at the writers and the directors and Ewan himself. They have to know that we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to spread this too thin or too far. So yes, do you want to come back? It's a great success. What kind of stories can we write to, I'm sure there's got to be a whole collaborative effort to make sure it's the right story to tell, to bring it back again.
Right. Agreed.
Well, Vizsla, just as you happen to be talking about Hayden and Ewan and Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, I happen to have a little clip for us here. When somebody asked Hayden, what's it like to get back into the Darth Vader suit? And I thought his answer was really, really cool, so I wanted to just include it here on the show. So here's Hayden.
Putting the Vader costume back on was incredible, that costume, comes with such a presence. You put it on and it just informs so much the way you feel, and for me it was very sort of cathartic in a way too, just because this is a character that has meant a lot to me and has sort of stayed with me over the years, and getting to come back and continue with it was an emotional experience.
So I think that's really cool, because we all know that he got a lot of flack for his portrayal of Anakin in those two movies. And there's a part of the interview, they didn't include it in the video here where I got the sound clip from, but there's part of the interview where he says it's finally nice to be, how did he word it? It's finally nice to be feeling the love for my performance as Anakin all these years later than what happened when the movies came out. I was like, you know what? I'm really, really glad for him that he is feeling that. He's noticing that people are now appreciative of his performance, and I'm happy for the guy.
No, I am too. I think a lot of things like that happen with Star Wars. Things that aren't accepted at first gradually become accepted. I mean, Ahsoka's another character that's very much falls in that realm. A lot of people hated Ahsoka when she got first introduced, and now she's probably one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars. So it was our generation that didn't like Anakin. The kids loved Anakin and loved what happened in those movies.
The kids that were the age that we were at when Star Wars started, the prequels was their Star Wars, so that's what they know first, and those are their heroes. So yeah, they had no issue with it. No, just all us dumb old fogies that. I mean, not so much me, but they all had issue with it.
the people that did have issues with it, they were mainly our age.
Yeah, exactly. So
our generation. Yeah,
I like hearing his voice again though. Like, you can tell he's grown, he's matured. His voice is a lot deeper. It's got a lot more raspier kind of sound to it. It's like, wow, is that Anakin? Because unless you're watching him in the interview, you're like, yeah, that's still him. Okay, that's cool. But it'll be cool to see him also matured in his role as Vader. I mean, he's gotten to grow as an actor and do a lot of things. So I can't wait to see what he brings to the role now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
cool. Totally. And then speaking of Ewan, I also have a clip from Ewan. They asked him kind of a similar question in the same interview. So here's Ewan McGregor.
I didn't think about it for a long time. After we finished the original 3 movies, I really felt like that was my lot, and I'd enjoyed making them, and I was happy to be part of the Star Wars sort of legend. So I thought that was probably going to be it. But the longer it went on, and the more I met people that liked those original films, the young kids who who we made them for. I didn't really hear their voice when they came out. All I heard was the critics didn't like them, and there's quite a lot of negative stuff written about the films that we made, which wasn't easy to take after, we put all our heart and soul in them. And then I started hearing from the kids that liked them, the generation who we sort of made them for, I suppose. So that was nice.
Yeah, and that actually is kind of what we were talking about.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so, and there's a whole generation of kids that are going to be with the sequels. That's their Star Wars movies. That's the first thing they saw, and they're going to have to go back and, like, who's Luke? What? Where's all that from? They're not going to know, right? Yeah. Cool.
And then there's this is kind of a side note of Obi Wan and a little bit of Andor, but apparently in some interviews that Ian McDermott has done, who is, everybody should know him, he plays Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious.
Yes.
But apparently he's been hinting that he is coming back in some form or another, either in Obi-Wan or Andor.
Oh.
So maybe not part of the main storyline, obviously, but possibly making an appearance.
How cool would that
I would
be?
venture to guess Obi-Wan and not Andor. So I put my money down that he shows up in Obi-Wan as maybe just a hologram discussion with Vader or something like that. But
Right.
I definitely think that would be the one he'd show up on.
Cool. How cool would that be, eh?
Yes. Or, if you were to, I wouldn't be surprised if I guess Andor possibility, because we're going to be with, Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, so it could be that maybe there's a Senate, happening, some Senate meeting and stuff like that, and he's addressing the Senate still. It could be that too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But could be both. Who knows?
Could be both. Could be a little of everything. Who knows?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter how old Ian McDermott gets. He's got to put on all the Emperor makeup anyway. He looks old and decrepit anyway, so he can play the part until he dies. It'd be perfect.
That's right.
Yeah. So that'd be cool. That's exciting stuff. Definitely.
Awesome. Anyway, that's all the ones that I found right now.
Well, I think that's pretty exciting news, seeing as how it's been a few weeks for us. That's good stuff to have that come around. Looking forward to all of it. And for the rest of you guys, as always, we ask that you continue to spread the word about the Mandalore podcast, because we are the definitive Disney Plus Star Wars show, and our listeners are the best. So definitely let everybody know that we are here and we're talking all this good Star Wars. We are not just Mandalorian based. So let everybody know. And then also check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/theMandaLorepodcast. That's where you're going to get some little extra stuff. And, once you've been on there for a little while, we'll send you a Mandalore t-shirt and all kinds of good stuff. But me and Vizsla are still working behind the scenes to get that ramped up and extra things going on there for you guys. But it's just a good way for you to support the show. All right, let's move on to our first part of discussion. There is two reasons why we're coming back in your ears this week. We're going to talk just a little bit about the Calgary Expo, where me and Vizsla performed the podcast live in front of a studio audience. Or I guess it's not so much a studio audience, but there was an audience anyway.
There was an audience, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about the second trailer of Obi Wan. So let's get to the first one here.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about, instead of Cantina Chatter tonight, we're going to talk about the Calgary Expo and how that all went. Me and Vizsla, he wasn't here live. He was over Skype on a great big screen, so it was actually kind of fun. I'm sitting up on a stage, behind a desk in front of the audience, and there's a great big projector screen beside me, and that's where Vizsla was. His big old happy face was. He was actually a lot bigger than me.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I saw the pictures.
So it's pretty fun. So that's just so everybody could see you. And it was a relatively small panel. The expo this year wasn't as busy. I think it always depends on the time slot and stuff we got. But I think we had 20-ish people, 25 people in the room again, which is kind of what we had last year, maybe a little bit more. But it's still fun. It's a nice, intimate little experience. We get to have a good conversation with our fans and, hopefully encourage them to speak up and come ask us questions. And once the first one did, then it started steamrolled from there, and then everybody was asking questions and sharing their opinions. So it was pretty fun. So we definitely like doing that, and hope to do some more. I mean, if we could get all the way down to Star Wars Celebration to do one time, that'd be fantastic. But it was a good show, and my other experience from there, what I want to talk about and share with you guys, is that we did have 2 Star Wars actors here with us that I got to meet and talk to. And that was the characters of Greef Karga and Bo-Katan, otherwise known as Carl Weathers and Katte Sackoff. So I got to talk to these 2 amazing actors, and plus I got to sit in on their panels and listen to their stories and answer fan questions and stuff, which, by the way, I got to get up and ask Katie a question. Katte Sackoff, who plays Bo-Katan. And in case you didn't see the video that I posted in the Facebook group, because I know not all of our listeners are on the Facebook group, I'm going to play a little audio clip from it for you here, the question that I asked, and then the wonderful answer that she gave me. So here's that.
Hi.
Thanks for coming back to Calgary.
Absolutely.
So, on Bo-Katan, can you describe your feelings, the emotions you went through the first time you put on her armor and her helmet and realized, I'm bringing this character to life?
Dave and I were both completely speechless, because I'd gone in to get scanned, and I'd gone in for my hair and makeup tests and blah, 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 but I had never had it all at the same time. And so the first time I put the suit on with the hair and makeup, Dave was there, and we both just kept looking at each other, like, because it was so shocking how similar I looked to the animation. It really was. We just kept looking in the mirror, and he kept looking at me, and I think that it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, because I've never played a character for 10 years or been associated with her for 10 years. And then actually, like an animated, it would be like if all of a sudden they dressed me up as, like, they decided to do a Robot Chicken movie and, like, they made me bitch puddin'. It would be so weird to see yourself animated. And they did such a beautiful job, translating it into live action.
Best character ever.
Yeah.
And there you go. So that was a question I got to ask in front of the audience, and the audience, there was like hundreds and hundreds of people. She completely overfilled the auditorium, so it was pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I thought it was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I went to visit them at their autograph tables. Oh, and Carl Weathers, I didn't actually ask Carl Weathers a question at his panel, but to sit in and listen to this guy share stories about his time on Rocky as Apollo Creed and his time working with Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator, and then of course his most recent time in Star Wars and stuff. He's got this voice. There's like 3 or 4 actors in all of Hollywood that just have these voices that are unlike any other voice. Morgan Freeman is one of them. And you all know it, when you hear Morgan Freeman talk, you're like, I want this guy to narrate my life story. It's awesome. Carl Weathers has a voice like that too. It's so deep, so baritone, and just rumbles like he's perpetually in a long hallway, the way his voice carries. It's so cool. And so anyway, I went to see these guys at their autograph tables, and I'm going to start with the little bit disappointing story, because talking to Carl, I was actually a little surprised at his attitude and his demeanor towards us, like to me and to Lisa and stuff. He wasn't busy at his autograph booth at all, and because you look around, Katte Sackoff beside him, and there's a couple other famous stars from other TV series and stuff. Their lineups were huge for their autographs, and poor Carl Weathers didn't have anybody. Like, he'd have 1 or 2 people come up to him every once in a while, but he was just sitting there, and that sucks. I always hate seeing that for the actor, so I always want to go up and talk to them and at least say, hey, I appreciate you being here, and have a conversation with them. And as long as they're as long as they're a good celebrity, they're quite happy. They're usually quite happy to talk to you and oh, somebody appreciates me, great, yeah, and because there's nobody waiting in line, they'll spend some time with you. And I've had a lot of experiences like that. But Carl Weathers, like, he just wasn't busy at all, and I thought he'd love the interaction of someone that truly appreciates him, because I went up to him and I talked to him about playing Dylan on Predator and playing Apollo Creed, and I talked about Action Jackson. I brought up all that stuff, and and his panel was packed. Like, he also filled the auditorium. His panel was packed, but nobody cared to see him afterwards. So I just I feel bad that he's sitting there alone. And I don't know if he didn't seem happy about that himself, is why he had this bad attitude, but he just couldn't care to give me any of the time unless you were buying something from him. It was just really weird. Like, he barely looked up from his cell phone. He was just I don't know if he was on Facebook or what he was doing, but he was just scrolling through his phone as I'm talking to him and asking him questions and telling him how much I've appreciated his career and everything. He barely looked at me. He's just sitting there scrolling and saying, oh yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to give you some time here and show my fandom for you. And he just, and finally at the end, when I started talking about his voice and how much I appreciate, I said, man, if anyone ever writes a novel of my life, would you read the audiobook version of it for me? Would you be the narrator of my life? And that's when he finally dropped his phone and he laughed. He was like, oh, nobody's ever asked me that before. Wow, narrate your life. And then he suddenly got into it with me. And I just said, yeah, I mean, you got one of those voices. You're like Morgan Freeman. He said, yeah, I've heard that before. And that was the most I got out of him. So it was disappointing, because I thought it was actually really kind of rude, actually, that, and it kind of gives me a different perspective on him as an actor, because I wasn't sure, was he really just pissed off that nobody was coming to see him, or could he not be bothered to talk to me unless I was buying something from him? So I wasn't sure, but it was a little bit...
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown, but the thing is with these expos and these Comic-Cons, it's now become such a money business. The prices have gone way up now. Like, you used to be able to go see these guys, pay $25, $30 for an autograph or whatever, and slowly over the years it's gone up to $40, $50. I don't mind paying $50 for an autograph or $50 for a picture. They're all over $100 now, which is ridiculous. $100 to get an autograph. I'm like, geez, that's insane. I don't have $1,000 to throw down on the show this year. I'm sorry. I'm coming to talk to you because I'm a fan of you, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. Like, you're here because of us, the fans. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us supporting your career. So give us the time of the day at least.
Yeah.
Is the way I look at that. Why else did you come to the expo other than to see your fans? This isn't a money-making scheme for you. You make more money in a single episode of a Star Wars show than you do spending all weekend here. So, anyway, it was still cool to see him. I'm standing face-to-face with Dylan, with Apollo, with Greef Karga, with Action Jackson. At least I'm standing there talking to him, and I got to hear his voice, right up close. But
yeah.
Now, Katte Sackoff, on the other hand, an entirely different experience. If you have never met Katte Sackoff before, she is absolutely amazing. She is kind. She is attentive. She's interested in meeting you and talking to you and finding out who you are and everything about you. She answers all the questions. She's just so friendly. And she doesn't care about people in line. She'll spend as much time as she needs with you to get whatever you need to get out of the experience. And again, with her, we weren't buying anything. We just happened to got into her lineup when there wasn't many people left. There's like 4 or 5 people behind us. And we weren't buying anything. And she still spent, it was at least a minimum of 15 minutes she spent just talking to us. Just sitting there, hanging out. And I say hanging out because she's sitting there at her table, and she's leaning on her side of the table. I'm leaning on my side of the table. I got my elbow on the table. I'm kind of leaning into her, and we're like, there's like a foot between us. We're like face to face chatting, and Lisa and her daughter were there, and we're all just kind of grouped together, just having a conversation. And she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. One of my favorite actresses. When you have an experience like this with someone like that, it just really ramps up your appreciation for them, and it makes you want to support their work and everything. I already love everything she does anyway. Her other sci-fi show, Another Life, if you guys have not watched Another Life, I think it's on is it a Netflix show or an Amazon Prime show? I can't remember. I went for 2 seasons. It's another space show. She's a captain of a spaceship, and they're out. An alien sends an artifact to planet Earth, and it lands on Earth, and it just sits there, and we don't know what the heck's going on. So they send Katte Sackoff's character out to space to find out where it came from, and that's what the whole story's about. And that show just got better and better and better as it went, but it got canceled, and so I was really upset, and I was talking to her about that and where her character might have gone from there. And then we talked about Star Wars, we talked about Bo-Katan, and just had a fun conversation. And then Lisa's daughter asked her an acting question. You know, she said, do you have any advice for me as a young actor to start out? And Katie just got right into it with her and sat there for like 10 minutes talking to her about all the different things she can do to be an actress and what she needs to practice, and gave her some tips, you know. Find a monologue that you like. Find one of your favorite movie monologues and then write it down and go in the bathroom and practice it in the mirror, and just monologue in the mirror and watch your face and watch how your face, your muscles and your cheeks and your teeth and your eyes, watch what all of that does while you're monologuing. And then you see what you look like, and then you adjust. And if you're supposed to look angry during that scene, then make yourself look angry if you don't look angry. And she just went off on these amazing, like, it was like a 10-minute school of acting from Katte Sackoff. It was beautiful. And then her agent jumped in, and her agent is someone that I've worked with before because I used to run the video team for the expo. And this agent, she's an agent for many of the actors, and so I knew her, and I kind of said, hey, you know, do you remember me? I used to run this. She goes, Martin, yeah. And we kind of remembered each other and talked a bit. But she jumped in and she gave some advice, and she gave some advice on how to find an agent and what to do and what to look for. And it was amazing. That experience alone is worth the entire admission to the expo. It's worth everything to get 15 minutes or more with Katte Sackoff, where it's one-on-one personal interaction. It was just amazing. And we walked away from that, and I walked away and I said, you know, she just did all of that for us. Dang it, I can't do that for free. I have to. So I circled around back, went to her autograph booth, and she has a whole bunch of pictures, and I'm like, you know what, I found a beautiful picture of Bo-Katan, and I've posted it on the Facebook page. I don't know, did you see it, Vizsla? I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I bought a picture of her as Bo-Katan, and she autographed it. She said, hey, Siber Wren, good luck on the podcast, whatever. I said, I have to buy this. She goes, oh, you came back just for that? I said, yeah, you just spent so much time with us. I have to buy some for it just would make me feel guilty if I did it. And she's like, oh, you're super sweet. That's amazing. And then I walked away, and I actually came back about 10 minutes later and talked to the agent again. I had to get some more information from the agent. But I asked both Katie and Carl Weathers, I asked them both, would they record something for our podcast? Record an intro, because if you guys listen to my Tomorrow's Legend show, you know I've got a few of the actors doing the intros for our shows. I wanted to do the same thing for Mandalore here, because I thought that would just ramp up our game if we've got actual Star Wars characters introducing the show. But that was probably the first 5 minutes of conversation with Katie, is she felt so bad. They cannot. Not only are their hands tied, but they are bound, gagged, blindfolded, and gun held to their head by Disney. They cannot do anything without Disney's approval. And she felt so bad about it. She went on and on and on about how bad she feels. She took my Mandalore podcast card. She asked me all kinds of questions about it. And she's just like, I really, really want to. I would love to do this for you, but I can't. If Disney finds out that I recorded something for you without their approval, I would be in a lot of trouble, and they would come after you with all of their lawyers, and they've got billion-dollar lawyers, and they would shut you down, and you wouldn't even have a show anymore. And I thought, oh my, and then that's when her agency was, yeah, we can't. She was like, we just can't. Everything Katie just told you, we can't. There'd just be a lot of, you'd have a lot to pay for.
Yeah.
Like, dang it. So it sucks. I understood, and it sucks. But the cool thing that came out of that, other than my experience with her, is her agent actually gave me, and I have it here somewhere, she gave me her name and email address to contact her. I'll show it to Vizsla here as soon as I can find it. Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So that
nice.
Katte Sackoff's agent gave me your email address. I can contact her, and she said, if you want to try it, you can send me all your show info, and I will forward it on to my contacts at Disney, and I can try to get your show approved. And then you'd have open access to everything. If they approve you, you could interview all of us. And I'm sitting there like, oh my god, yes, please.
Yeah.
But then she says, but if they don't approve you, you're going to be shut down. And I was like, oh, that's a big risk to take, because that would mean we lose the entire show. Disney doesn't want us on the air because they don't like what we're doing. And it got me worried, because we do use sound clips. We do use a lot of stuff without their quote unquote permission. I mean, this is free to use play. We're not making any money off it. There's legally, we're okay to play because we are just a review show, and that's fully allowed. But if Disney listens to it and says, no, we don't like it, then they could send their lawyers after us and we're in trouble. So I've really been sitting on the fence trying to think about that. Do I contact her to ask her to do it? I don't know. It's a risk.
I don't think we can talk about it later, but I think there's a lot more shows out there that use way more stuff than we're trying to do. Plus they're making money from it. So
right.
They're not shutting them down. There's no way they'd shut this down.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're actively searching for us, no. But if they have one of their agents directly leapfrog over all of those shows and say, hey, here's a show, we met the hosts, what do you think, Disney? And now we're on Disney's radar. So that's I
don't think we're doing anything that is discouraging or,
anyway,
we're not doing anything making Disney look bad. So
yeah. So that was the story. That was the adventure of the expo, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, these things, because I ran the video team for 10 years for the expo. It's neat to get these experiences. I have a lot of experiences of getting to hang out with the celebrities behind the scenes, behind the curtains, as they say, and it's just cool. And because of that, I have no fear walking right up to them and say, hey, can you record something for me? Or hey, and just talking to them like they're people, because they get enough crazy fans that come screaming and crying and can't contain themselves, and that gets a little tiresome after a while, and they appreciate you just talking to them like a regular human being, and they want to get to know you in that sense. And I think Katie really loved that. But she's so sweet, super sweet. Ever get a chance to meet Katte Sackoff, take that opportunity. Yeah, she was awesome.
I'll just say the same real quick about Ashley Eckstein. I think she's phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to meet the voice of Ahsoka, she was exactly the same way.
Nice. Yeah. See, some of them are like that. Some of them are really, really good.
Yep.
And some of them aren't. Even that weekend alone, we met, I think it was 50-50. We met a few of them that were super friendly, loved to chat with us. Like we met half the cast of Cobra Kai, and a couple of them were just right into it, and a couple of them weren't. And so it just depends. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our second part of our conversation. And that is talking about the newest Obi Wan Kenobi trailer that came out. It's trailer number 2, but it's the official trailer. The first one that we did a couple weeks ago was the teaser trailer. Now they released the official trailer. I don't know if another trailer is going to come out before the show releases. I don't think so, because they've shown as much as they could without giving anything away. So I think this is probably all we're going to get, other than TV spots and different commercials. Probably the week leading up to its release date, they're going to really ramp that up, I would imagine. But it'll be a lot of repeats. So this latest trailer that came out, that's maybe a week old now, I guess. Trailer number 2.
Yeah, May the 4th. It dropped May the 4th.
There you go. So let's do a little rating for it. I don't want to just rate the trailer. We usually rate the trailer, so I'm going to rate our anticipation. How excited are you about this? Because I know when the first trailer dropped, you gave it a 10. You were jumping out of your skin. I only gave it an 8. But my anticipation now, as we're getting closer, I am at a 10, because I simply cannot wait anymore. This is part of the story that needs to be told, and I cannot wait to see what happens with Obi-Wan in this part of the Star Wars timeline. So I'm at a 10 right now.
Well, I actually I actually didn't read your notes correctly then. I thought we were rating the trailer. Because anticipation. I've been at 100.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to this series ever since they announced it. So
Cool.
this has been my most anticipated. This has been my most anticipated Star Wars ever. Episode 1 was probably up there as well because we hadn't had Star Wars in a while, but this is above that now. So
Okay.
cannot wait for this series. Now the trailer, I gave it a 9 just because I didn't think it was anything really improved upon of the first trailer. There were a couple of new things in it, but I feel like it was the same tone and same feeling, and it didn't reveal that much. Not that I want that much revealed, but like we still haven't seen Obi Wan ignite his lightsaber, which I thought we would at least get that in this.
Yeah.
He's still, just we saw him fighting a little bit and shooting some blasters, but I thought that we would get a little bit more. But so the trailer didn't really, fully, jump me out of my seat. A couple parts of it did, but overall felt the same. But I'm still, my anticipation is still out the roof for this thing.
Cool. So even I think for me, anticipation level, if I had to reach my highest point, I think when Force Awakens was coming out, that was probably the most anticipated excitement I've ever had, because at that point it had been 30 years since we've had anything Star Wars, so or whatever. I'm off on my timeline, but it had just been so long, and we never thought we were ever going to get anything again. And then all of a sudden now they're going to continue the story after Luke and Han and Leia. So that's when I was the most excited. This is right up there, though. I mean, it's Obi Wan Kenobi. He's pretty much everybody's top 3 favorite characters. So yeah, it's going to be cool. Well, let's talk about that trailer. I'm going to start off with a little bit about Coruscant and Tatooine, because this definitely seems to be the 2 major locations for where the series is going to take place. Because it looks like the hunt for Obi-Wan initially takes place on Coruscant, where they think he is hiding, but then they somehow track him to Tatooine. What do you think?
I'm not convinced it's Coruscant that they're at. I don't think it's Coruscant.
Okay. Why? Because that's where they know the Jedi to be. That's where the Jedi headquarters was. That's where.
Well, but this is 10 years after that. They wiped out. They wiped out all the Jedi pretty much on Coruscant. I feel like if there's anybody out there, they're all hiding somewhere out in the galaxy.
Yeah, but you got 1,300 levels.
Yeah, but they knew the Jedi weren't on any of those levels underneath. So actually, you have 5,000 levels in Coruscant.
Oh, jeez.
So that's what I'm saying. The underworld, they weren't really involved down there. And that's why this doesn't look like an underworld, because you can kind of see the skyline,
Okay.
and it seems like it's just one level, one normal planet level. I don't think that that's Coruscant. I think they get wind of Obi-Wan. Yeah, what I'm trying to figure out is what comes first. Is do they go to Tatooine first and then they follow him to this city, or do they go to the city first and then they track him down at Tatooine? I'm kind of thinking that he's on Tatooine first and then he goes to this other city, and that's where they follow him there, because he's been on Tatooine, so I think he doesn't leave there yet until but then part of me also feels like, because I believe the city of Tatooine that they're visiting is Anchorhead.
Yeah.
A city we haven't seen yet. And apparently, I think it could be the capital of Tatooine. So it could be actually the biggest city. So could what we're seeing is Anchorhead at night with all the lights and everything? Like, that's a possibility. It doesn't look like a Tatooine city in a sense. But we really haven't seen a Tatooine city at night either.
Right. And it's definitely not lit up. I mean, Tatooine, the cities we have seen aren't really lit up like that.
Yep.
So, And that's interesting what you're saying, because that kind of leads right into my next question, because I was going to say there's this clip of Obi-Wan in a shootout on some rooftops, and then he's down below in some type of corridors.
Yep.
But they look more city-like, and I was going to ask the question, could that be Tatooine rooftops and corridors? And if it's Anchorhead that we've never really seen yet, that you could be right there. That could be Anchorhead, and that he's in, because it still had a dusty environment feel to it.
Right.
But it doesn't look like any city on Tatooine we've seen before, and yet he's running around on the rooftops in those shootouts. So,
yeah, and that's been the thought, is that Anchorhead it hasn't been seen, and it's actually the biggest, most occupied city. So, could be a little bit more advanced as far as like, where all the goods come from, where everything's kind of traded out of. It supports cities like Mos Eisley and Mos Espa and stuff like that. So.
Right.
We saw now this takes place before Book of Boba Fett, right? So we saw Mos Espa years later in the future, and Mos Espa looked pretty big once we kind of scaled back from what we saw in episode 2.
Yeah.
But Anchorhead is supposed to be, again, a lot bigger. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was also, like you said, Anchorhead at night, and there are some lit up signs and make it look. But it definitely resembled the underworld of Coruscant. So,
yeah.
But like you said, it did feel a little dusty and dingy still. So,
okay. Well, that's.
So we may be on Tatooine for the first couple episodes until he actually leaves.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll come back around to your idea of what's coming first. We'll come back to that in a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So they also put out a wanted poster, basically, like a Star Wars wanted poster. He's out on some digital system. And you can hear the actor saying that she wants to get tips from anyone who's seeing him, basically. Hire all the scum, all the bounty hunters to look for him. We're going to squeeze him out. We're going to pitch him out of here. And I thought, okay, we hadn't seen that in Star Wars before, like a wanted ad, because you saw that picture of him on the screen, and obviously there was like a money value underneath it and a whole bunch of language. So it's a wanted ad. And in one of the brief shots that we see on the rooftops, as she's saying, hire all the scum and the bounty hunters, it looks like a Togruta shooting at him from a distance. He's on one rooftop, and whoever is in the shadows shooting at him from another rooftop. You see the 2 points on the head, which looked very Togruta to me. Not anyone familiar. I don't think it's Ahsoka or anybody like that. But it looked like a Togruta. Did you pick up on that too?
I did. Yeah, in the distance. Plus, there was a
shot
of a droid, which looked like Forlom almost.
Yeah.
That Forlom was one of the droid bounty hunters on the Executor.
Yeah.
The Executor on in Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
He's one of the 6 bounty hunters on there. It might not be the same, but same type of droid.
Similar droid. Or I had said Mandalorian. I was thinking of the one on the prison episode when they go to rescue the guy. They had a droid.
Yes.
Assassin
that
there
looks
too.
Similar. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. So Obi-Wan is also captured at one point. So where could that take place? And I ask because looking at the movie trilogy, he's still on Tatooine. He's hidden, he's secluded, and nobody knows he's there. So even though it looks like they come there to get him, it has to be that they never find him, or else he would never be left there to grow old. Vader would still come for him if they actually ultimately found him there. So this ties into what you were saying, is that maybe they came to Tatooine looking for him, and he leads them away from it. And basically, it to them, it's a dead end. Because I can't imagine if they actually knew that he was there, Vader would keep looking for him, keep hunting for him there. But obviously, it doesn't happen because he grows old and is never bothered again. So coming full circle again, where this part where he gets captured and you see him drop to his knees, well, where do you think all of that is happening?
Well, I was wondering about that because I was curious where that shot you're talking about, he drops to his knees, because I don't see a shot where he drops to his knees.
Okay, maybe he's already on his knees, but he looks like he's down on his knees.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on his knees though, because if you look behind him in that shot, it just looks like a bunch of like crates and cargo. I'm not convinced that he's actually captured in that shot. I almost feel like he's hiding.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that he's captured yet, because I don't see how he can be captured. That would be tough for me to figure out how. I mean, I guess he could be and then escapes, but I think they're playing a little movie trickery there when they're showing the Vader him being put together, and then they show Obi Wan. I don't think it's the same scene.
I was wondering about that too.
So I think to me it seems like he's hiding and he's trying to be quiet. Is he's in a compartment and there's maybe Inquisitors around looking for him. I can't tell really where he's at though. That's the thing. It looks like there's a bunch of cargo behind him, but
okay. See, and I'm looking at the scene now, and I thought it was people standing behind him.
Nah, there's no one behind him. I don't see anybody behind him.
Yeah, I just feel like he's down low, but okay. Well, hey, different day. That's why we're talking about it. Different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
I just it looked to me he was on his knees, and I thought maybe he was in some type of
because he it cuts to him kind of opening his eyes, like that's why I feel like he's like trying to sense what's around him, and he's like, seems like he's like trying to be really still and quiet, so like no one can find him. So yeah, that's my sense.
I let them totally mislead me then. If you're correct, I let them mislead me, because the words that are being said, at that moment she's saying, he's been waiting for you, now you're going to meet him, whatever it is she's saying, and you can hear him starting to breathe. So that
well, she said something like, you can't run from him, like he'll find you.
Yeah. So I think that led me into thinking that they've got him there for some reason. So interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how he gets caught. I don't know if he can get caught. That's I guess he always could be, and then get freed and escape. But
yeah,
but I feel like if he gets caught, then, and again, I don't know if maybe this is a bad thing or not, but like then everyone in the Empire would know that Obi Wan survived and that he's alive. But to me, it feels like we're building up to a fight between Anakin or Vader and Obi-Wan again.
Yeah.
So I think that's I think
interesting. See, you have a very different perspective on what we were seeing there. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
It's from a certain point of view, right?
Yeah. One of the greatest lines ever.
Yep. So that's
you could pretty
Star Wars.
You could get away with anything if you followed up with that line.
Yep.
Cool. Well, the last thing I wanted to say about this point here is that there's also that one shot of that pillar out in the middle of water. Like it looks like Camino to me. I mean, I don't know any ocean planets, but it's just massive ocean world, and there's that really tall, pointy pillar that a ship is flying towards. I'm like, well, where's that?
I thought we mentioned this on the last show because didn't they have that shot on the last trailer?
Maybe if we talked about it, I forget.
But that place is called the Fortress Inquisitorius. It's actually the headquarters of the Inquisitors.
Okay, that doesn't sound familiar. Maybe we didn't.
You're first introduced to it actually in Jedi Fallen Order, the game.
Okay.
You as Cal Kestis, you actually go and visit this location. So, in the comics, we find out that we're told in the comics that when the Inquisitors were first developed, they were developed on Coruscant, and there was an incident in the first few stages of the Inquisitor program where Palpatine basically, or Sidious was basically like, because he never was really for the Inquisitors, he really hated the idea,
right?
But he made them move off of Coruscant. So then they developed this fortress out here. It's on the planet Nur, Nur, and that's where Vader went to go continue training or overseeing the Inquisitors. He tasked the Grand Inquisitor with training all the Inquisitors, and then that's when also Vader went and began his construction of his castle on Mustafar.
Right.
So he basically moved pretty much Vader and the Inquisitor off Coruscant and onto those respective planets. So yeah, that's where the Inquisitors are trained and headquartered, and and whatnot. So yeah.
So that ship flying into the scene would lead to the internal scenes that we saw where the Inquisitors are sitting at a table, they're discussing their plans or whatever. That
Probably,
would be
yeah.
inside that building, probably.
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's talk about the newer stuff that we saw in this trailer. And we got a little bit more of Owen Lars, Uncle Owen, in this trailer. And what we see this time is that he's very protective of Luke as he's telling Obi-Wan to leave them alone, which makes it appear that he's not trusting Obi-Wan's ways after what he knows happened to Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and this is well, I think you should read the next point, because I think that's where the big discussion happens.
Okay. Well, let's get to the family tree. Let's get to the Skywalker family tree, because it was a little bit confusing, and maybe other listeners are confused too. So tell me if I'm correct here, because I had to look it up. I was confused myself. Owen is Anakin's step-brother after his father marries Shmi Skywalker when he bought her and freed her as a slave, right? So, in fact, not a blood relative, like Uncle Owen is not actually Luke's blood uncle, which makes Anakin his only living blood family that's alive, because we know Shmi died. So, well, I guess Leia's out
Besides
there too.
Leia, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
But at this point in time, when we're talking about like Luke's parents and all that kind of stuff, it's just Anakin. So, am I right? Owen is Anakin's stepbrother.
That
Because
is correct. Yeah.
We learned this in the prequel movies. Owen's dad falls in love with Shmi, so he buys her from what's his name? Watto?
Watto. Yeah.
Watto. He buys him from Watto, that little winged bird-beaked creature guy
Mm-hmm.
that we saw with Anakin as a slave. So he buys Shmi from her, frees her, and then marries her. And then from that point, that's when she gets taken captive by the Sand People, and they torture her. And then we see Anakin come to her rescue once he finds out. So there's that whole sequence. So Owen is Anakin's stepbrother, and you can continue on from.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, a stepbrother, and this is so you bring up a good point about it seems that he's not trusting because of what happened to Anakin. So this was my most intriguing part of the trailer, was that little conversation that Owen and Obi-Wan had. I thought that was because one of my long-term questions I've always had was how much does really Owen know about the backstory? Because it seems like in episode 4, the only time we've ever really heard him talk about it, he tells Luke that, Ben Kenobi doesn't exist. He died the same time as your father. And he's like, you knew it, he's like, oh, you knew my father? And he's like, I told you to forget it. So you would think at that point he does know the story. But then you go back to episode 3, once, or 2 and 3, once Anakin leaves Tatooine, suddenly, when he leaves in episode 2 to go to Geonosis, to the beginning of the Clone Wars, we have no story, and I believe we never will. We have no story that Anakin ever comes back and visits Owen and Beru. Like, they never really get to know each other. Like, that's the only time in episode 2 that they've actually met and talked, was when he came looking for his mother. So Owen doesn't really ever know Anakin. All he knows of Anakin is he was obviously a Jedi, and now he's hurting because he found his mother dead, and now he's off, still fighting the Clone Wars. And it's not until the end of episode 3 that all of a sudden Obi-Wan shows up at their doorstep with this baby. Yeah. Now, did Obi-Wan explain the situation, the full situation at this point? I would think that he would have. I would think that he would have said, this is Anakin's baby. Because there's no way, why would they ever accept this baby, right? Yeah. This is Anakin's baby. He needs to be protected. And at some point, he's like the only hope we may have to fighting the Empire. I believe that there has to be that conversation. Now, we didn't see it in episode 3. We probably never will see it because maybe it happened. To me, because I questioned when I saw the trailer finally too, again, was, when he says, he needs to be trained as a Jedi, and Owen says, like you trained his father. It's like, okay, I get it that he may have known that he trained his father and that I have Anakin's son. I'm raising Anakin's son. But does he really know the full story of Anakin turning into Darth Vader? Like, that would be a little much, I think, of conversation, right? So I don't know how he finds that out and how much of the backstory does he know. I'm actually really intrigued by all that.
It makes you wonder. Yeah, you have a good point, because when I was looking up a bit of the history just to get the family tree right, it's on one of the Star Wars wiki or whatever. Whoever wrote that up is talking about how Owen and Anakin were stepbrothers, and I wish I had it in my notes here, but it just talks about them having a history together. But you're right, because in Phantom Menace, Anakin's taken away as a young kid, as a 6-year-old boy. He's taken away by Qui-Gon, right? So
Qui-Gon, and he's about 9 at that point.
Yeah. So,
but at that point, they have never met the Lars Homestead yet.
Yeah. So when does the stepbrother? Because when Anakin comes back, he comes back to find out, hey, my mom's not even a slave anymore. Oh yeah, it's because I bought her and I freed her and I married her. I love your mom. There is a big gap of stuff that Anakin didn't even know what happened to his own mom.
Right, 10 years. Yeah, he's been gone for 10 years.
So,
and their first meeting, I mean, even Owen even says it, like, well, I guess I'm your stepbrother. I mean, he even says it in episode 2.
Right.
It's the first time they ever meet. And again, I don't think they meet ever again after that. So, it's hard. I don't know. I would like to know. But that's the question, is like, within this 10 years of Obi-Wan, watching over Luke under Owen's care, how much of these little conversations have Owen and Obi-Wan have?
Yeah.
Do they run into each other often? Is Obi-Wan constantly trying to look after and update Owen on Luke's progress, and is that how they start just kind of sharing stories about Anakin? Maybe that's how Owen has this, all of a sudden, this hatred for Obi-Wan and Anakin's story, and there's no way I'm going to let Luke be a part of that. It's like, he's got to know those things in order to be that protective of Luke, because if he was supportive of Obi-Wan and what was going on, then he'd obviously be like, yeah, train him. Go save us, kind of thing. But
yeah,
but he's obviously become fond of Luke and accepted his guardianship of him.
Because and part of this article, apparently Owen and Beru, they can't have kids of their own. They're infertile.
Right.
So that's why Luke to them becomes their son, and why he's so important to them. And you make a good point there. Like, Owen has to find out the entire story of what happened to Anakin and find out that he became Vader and all of that, because even in Star Wars A New Hope, like you already mentioned earlier, when Luke's asking a question, he's like, no, they're dead. Forget it. I already told you enough. Like, go work the farm. Like, he's trying to cut Luke off from ever finding anything out. So he obviously knows everything that's gone on there to try to protect Luke from it.
Yep.
So maybe that's what this show is going to be. That's going to be part of the relationship stuff we're going to get, is the confrontational situation between Obi-Wan and Owen, because obviously it's there in the clip that we saw. It's there because Obi-Wan tries to train Luke early on when he's young, and Owen forbids it. And maybe Obi-Wan tries a few times, and when Owen eventually gets pissed off enough, he forbids him to come anywhere around Luke, and that's when Ben goes off into seclusion and just keeps an eye on him from a distance.
Yeah, and clearly Owen does know the story, I feel like. But there's no other way that he could have learned it besides Obi-Wan, right? Because if anybody else knew the story, they would know that Anakin's son is is living on Tatooine. So
Yeah. So
there's no other way that he could have known besides conversations with Obi Wan. So it seems like they've had conversations over a course of a good period of time over this course of these 10 years.
So this clip where he says, "Whoa, like you trained his father," that could be quite a few conversations in, because if that's the first thing he says to him, then how does he know anything up to that point? Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully we see some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Because again, it's hard. Again, if you watch episode 3 again, now I know it's kind of a kind of a summary at the end of what leading into, at the time, episode 4. But he is just showing up, getting off, the animal, and then giving Luke to Beru, and then Beru walks over. So there is no conversation there between Obi-Wan and Owen, unless that conversation happened before he shows up with Luke.
Yeah.
Like, does he call them and say, "Hey,
call them
I get," you know what I mean? Well, or have a hologram chat with him, like saying, "Hey, I've got Luke here. He's the son of Anakin, and we need to protect him, and we need to save him. Can I bring him to you?" I mean, there could have been that conversation, but he wouldn't have gone. I don't think he would have gone into in depth of why he's doing it and why Anakin is what happened to Anakin and all this stuff. So, I think those are conversations that happened throughout the course of those 10 years, that 10-year gap before we get here.
Cool. Well, that's fascinating.
It is. That was the best part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's filling in Anakin and Luke's family story that we just don't know about, and we never really knew existed. And we've always known, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, but didn't really know anything about them.
Right.
So it's cool that they're now getting a major part to play in the development of Luke's story. So, yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, let's talk about Anakin / Darth Vader a little bit, because I got a couple of things I want to run by here. We hear a voice saying, "You still want Kenobi. He's gone." And it's a male voice, and I'm assuming it's one of the Inquisitors, but I have a feeling, and I want to know what you think here. When he says, "You still want Kenobi, but he's gone," I have a feeling one of the Inquisitors is talking to Vader. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think, like I said, the Grand Inquisitor, who's the one we've seen, the bald, with the red makeup on, I think he's the one that has conversations with Vader a lot.
Okay.
So could be him, possibly him.
Right.
And definitely talking, about Kenobi to him.
Which would lead into my next point, because we wondered on last episode how much we're going to see Vader and how much we're going to see Hayden Christensen playing him. And that could be one of the scenes. If him and the Inquisitor are having conversation about it all the time, that could be where Hayden gets to play the part a little bit more. Because we're like, well, if he's just going to be in the Vader suit, what does it matter if it's Hayden or not? Like, we're never going to see him. But there was leaked images. I think it was an official leaked image of Hayden with the helmet off, and it's Hayden Christensen. He's all melted and gross looking and whatever. So it looks like we're going to see him remove the helmet. And is that to talk to Obi Wan? Is that to talk to the Inquisitor? I'm guessing. I'm not sure. So, which is what that scene could be about. We talked about it when Obi Wan looks up to someone where I thought he was captured. You say he's in hiding, but Obi Wan looks up. Is he looking up to anybody at all, or is, like you said, is he on his own and he's just, like you said, he's just coming out of meditation? I don't know, but point is that this could give Hayden more scenes. If he is talking to the Inquisitor, then we could see him without his helmet a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason they brought Hayden back. I think they wouldn't have brought him back. Well, I take that back. If he couldn't come back, then I believe we probably wouldn't have seen an unmasked Vader. It would have just been Vader all the time and James Earl Jones's voice. But since they got Hayden to come back, I think you have to show his face every once in a while. And I believe we're going to see him. There's a rumor too that he's hovering in that bantha tank like he was in Rogue One, and this time when they reveal him, that it's going to be Hayden in there.
Right.
And so we're going to see Hayden's face, definitely, I think. Now, when he's talking, I guess there could be a point where he, basically what we saw in kind of Empire Strikes Back, right? When we saw the reverse before the mask came on, it's like,
yep,
maybe that's Vader without his mask on, and he does walk around sometimes without it on. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I do think we're going to see more of Hayden's face than we probably think we are.
Well, it's going to be similar to Pedro Pascal on Mandalorian. You're like, why do they need to hire Pedro? He's in the Mando suit all the time. But as the show went on, they found more and more reason for him to take his helmet off so we could see the actor. So it could be something similar to that too. We got to see Hayden. So this is early in his Vader career, so maybe he takes the helmet off more before he really, really needs the breathing apparatus yet. Who knows? But it's going to be cool to see him. I mean, to see him as the scarred Vader underneath, that'll be really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me now wishes that they would have brought him back and used him, even though he wouldn't have saw his face, but brought him back for Rogue One, and that would have been cool to know that was Hayden.
Yeah.
Also, but
yeah, that would have been cool. So I got a big question for you here. Do you think Vader will give Obi-Wan one chance to turn to the dark side, to join him because of their history together? Because you got to think he wanted to win Luke over. Do you think he would do that to Obi-Wan because it's his former master? They were brothers. They were best friends. Do you think he would just give him that one shot? Join me. The dark side is much more powerful.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, my immediate answer would be no, and only because at this point in time, Vader is, Vader is very much accepting of, where he is in the, I guess in the Sith, the eyes of the Sith, because, he is the apprentice, but, there's other hints going on in the comics and in the games that he's desperate right now to still bring, a lot of people may not know this, but he's desperate to bring Padme back.
Yeah, we've talked about that many times.
Yeah,
there's a huge emotional part to him still.
But also in the comics is every other part of Anakin besides Padme, he's trying to destroy.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't think twice. If it has anything to do with his old life that's not Padme, he's destroying it. So part of me feels like, well, if Obi-Wan's still around, I need to definitely finish him off. So, but, I think it really depends on how powerful they portray Obi-Wan to be.
Yeah.
If he seems to be very powerful, then I think it actually might be possible he may pose that question. And of course, Obi-Wan's going to say no, and then they're going to fight it out. But
that could be what starts the fight. Yeah,
it could be. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that actually is a very good possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But it could very well be a line that's going to be in the movie, in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could be right. It could be that he sees Obi-Wan as an enemy now, because it only seems to be family that seems to bring out that emotion in him. First it's Padme, and then as soon as he finds out he has a son, he immediately says, "Join me, son." Like,
yeah.
So,
but think back to Episode 3. What was the last thing that Anakin said? Or
I hate you.
I hate you.
Yeah.
So
you're right. Yeah.
He definitely, he's definitely going to want revenge for what he did to him.
Yeah, and that's a good possibility too. You're right. This is early in his Vader career, because we do know, like, from A New Hope, later when they meet each other in A New Hope, he's not that vengeful, he's not that angry at him as he was at the end of Episode 3. So time has suppressed a lot of that anger and hatefulness too. So
Yep. Well, yeah. And I don't think he, I mean, like he says in the fight, like, your powers are weak, old man. Like, Obi-Wan is definitely not as strong as he was probably at this point either. I think by the time A New Hope goes, he is just an old man at the end, Yeah. And Vader, technically Vader at that point, even though he was played by an older, or portrayed as an older person when we got to Return of the Jedi, but at that point, Vader's actually still kind of young. Hayden at this point, or Anakin at this point, would only be 23 plus 19, 41 years old, 42 years old. So technically Vader's only 42 in A New Hope, where he seems like he's like 50 or 60. You know what I mean?
See, and that's just a weird concept at all to even think of. How old is Darth Vader? Nobody ever asks that. Nobody ever thinks that's Vader. He's a machine. Like, what do you mean age? It's just a weird thing to ask. How old is Vader?
Yeah.
Oh, he's 42. Really?
Yes, he's 42.
That gives me a whole different perspective on Darth Vader.
It does.
I'm older than he is.
Yeah, it totally does.
Huh. Crazy. Well, that's interesting. This is what's going to be so fascinating about the show is what they do with this relationship between the two of them. What's going to happen? What are they going to say to each other? What's going to lead to the fight? How does the fight go down? Like we speculated on the last episode, what's going to happen in the fight? We had if you haven't listened to that conversation, go back and listen to our last Obi-Wan trailer discussion, because we really, really dove in deep about what could happen in the fight, whether Vader beats him and lets him go because there's a hint of that, that old brotherhood still, or does Obi-Wan beat him and that's why Vader leads to the line in A New Hope? Last time I was the student, now I'm the master. Maybe he's all confident now. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. That's what I just can't wait to see what they're going to do.
I know.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about, a little bit about the story again, because that's kind of where we are headed here. And again, we wonder about the story and how much it's going to contain. We talked last time about it being solely about the Inquisitors hunting down the Jedi. But now it seems this is just the hunt for Obi-Wan. And that's all that this show is going to be about. Along with his story on Tatooine with Owen and watching over Luke and, whatever. But it seems like this is really now just focused on the hunt for Obi-Wan, his story between him and Anakin, and then the side story will be whatever's happening on Tatooine. You feel the same?
Yes. It is about Obi-Wan. I mean, I think that I think what's missing from the trailer is ultimately how this thing starts, which I think they're kind of keeping it secret, which is basically why it's not that they find Obi-Wan. I think that somebody makes a mistake which draws Obi-Wan out, and that is why Obi-Wan is leaving Tatooine and trying to draw them away. I think basically what I mean by that is I think there's a mission that Obi-Wan is asked to help with, and that communique is what draws the Inquisitors out to Obi-Wan. So I think they find out he's receiving the message on Tatooine. Now, whether or not they believe he's been hiding there, I don't know, because I don't think they ultimately believe he's hiding there, because there's no reason why he would then be able to go back there and hide the rest of the time until episode 4. So I think the Inquisitors come there looking for him, and then that's when he leaves and they chase him. And we haven't seen any, I don't think, again, that's why I think maybe that could be Anchorhead at Night. I don't know if we've seen anything beyond these first 2 episodes at all.
Yeah.
Besides maybe Vader, that shot of Vader could be later. But I just don't think we've seen anything away from Tatooine yet.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be about, I think it's going to be about hunting Obi-Wan down, but Obi-Wan has got a a goal himself. It's not just to hide from them. I think there's a mission he's going to be helping with in order to, save somebody or help. Could be Leia. That's the biggest rumor, I think, and that's
what we talked about. Yeah,
one of the things that we've always talked about was, Leia would be the only reason I think he would leave, and risk his solitude.
But the other point the other reason he could leave is that if they do track him to Tatooine, he leaves to steer them away from Luke, from finding out. And that could be all. Maybe it's got nothing to do with a Leia or a mission. Maybe the only reason is he sends him on a wild goose chase. So, you're looking for me? Well, here's where I am. I'm on this planet. Come find me. And he leads them away.
Could be.
Huh. Well, what it does lead to, though, is my next question is, how does he get out of this, though? I mean, he's got 3 Inquisitors after him, including the Grand Inquisitor and Vader. How does he get out of this? I mean, it has to be that he kills all the Inquisitors, because there aren't any of them around after this time period. There's no Inquisitors going forward from this point in time. So could that once and for all prove how badass Obi Wan is? Because he takes them all out on his own by himself?
But we do know they're around because they're in Rebels. So
explain the timeline. Rebels comes how long after this?
This is about 4 years after.
Rebels is 4 years after this Obi-Wan story.
Yeah.
Okay, then I would explain, because I for some reason I keep thinking this comes after Rebels.
No, Rebels leads up to A New Hope. So
Rogue One.
And Rogue One and A New Hope, yeah. So all the Inquisitors that we see in this are pretty much alive, besides the one that's
seems like she's the main one.
The main one, which has a name. I don't think she has any kind of. I think they named her. I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
right now.
we talked about her last episode that she could be somebody in training. She'd be Inquisitor in training.
We don't know of her, so she could die.
Yeah,
she could.
Probably.
But fifth brother, Grand Inquisitor,
seven
sisters in there. Then they're all alive.
Yeah. Okay. So
after this,
so that changes my question then. How does he get out of this? Because he must either fake his death. Maybe they think he dies, and that's why they continue on without him. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen for him to get away from this, so he's not being hunted anymore, and he can live out his existence on Tatooine?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know I haven't thought of fully the circumstances, but I think it's going to end just like Episode 3, just in reverse. I think Vader is going to leave him to die, thinking that he died.
Okay. That was our speculation last time we talked. Is how the fight is going to go.
I still think that's the way it's going to go. I think they're going to fight, and I think Vader's going to best him. And at some point, he either falls off a cliff, or falls into maybe some water that looks like he got killed. I don't know. It's going to look. I think it's going to look like Vader killed him, and Vader is going to think he did. I don't think he's going to fully believe it, obviously, because he's not really surprised in Episode 4 that he's still alive. But it's going to look like he left him for dead. I think just like Episode 3. I mean, Obi-Wan walked away thinking he was dead. There's no way Anakin's going to survive.
Yeah. So it could be a similar thing.
So right? I think it's going to be a similar thing, and that's to me that's the only way Obi-Wan can go back to Tatooine without anybody going back there looking for him, because I think he's dead.
Right.
So
I like it.
That's how I think it's going to end.
Interesting.
So,
well, the last question, which we speculated, I'm curious where your head is at now, is cameos. There are rumors that there's some major surprise characters showing up that could be there to help him, could be there to go against him. We don't know. Once again, what do you think now? Who could show up? You remember last time I'm like, Mace Windu, he's going to step in and play a part. He's going to save him.
Yeah. I actually think it's possible Mace Windu shows up in one of these other series, but not this one. Man, let's see. I think, and I can't remember if I don't think it's been fully announced, right? I don't think Bail Organa has been fully announced.
Not that I know of.
But I think Bail Organa is going to be in it. So Jimmy Smits. I think there's going to be a young Leia. I do think that's going to, and for some reason I keep thinking that's going to be the central storyline. I still think there's something there where she's in trouble. I think Palpatine is going to show up. I think that's a realistic. I think Ian McDermott as Palpatine is going to be there. I think some of these bounty hunters are going to be surprised. You know, we're going to be surprised to see some bounty hunters. I think, could it be Bosk? Could it be Boba Fett? I mean, it'd be awesome if Boba Fett was in it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Eh?
That would be fun. There was rumors in the very beginning, but I haven't heard anything since. But there were rumors that Commander Cody was going to show up.
Cool.
You know, and Tamara Morrison playing him. You know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened still. Who else? I mean, I don't know. Obviously there's Luke. We already saw Luke, so we know that's going to happen. But
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That the most recent rumor I heard, they're like, "Whoa, there's a major surprise nobody's expecting to show up." So I'm thinking, well, what is that? They're just trying to get us excited over nothing, like, or could that actually be something? And who would that be? Like,
I mean, it could be, like Cad Bane still. Cad Bane's around, right?
What if it's Harrison Ford as Han Solo? Because there's rumors.
Wow.
There's rumors that he showed up on set at Lucasfilm for something.
That is right. That actually could be. Ooh, that could be a. Yep, that could be a definite.
But what would his part be? Because he doesn't meet Ben until they go looking for him with a 19-year-old Luke Skywalker. That's the first time they meet. So what could he be doing on this show unless he's just at Tatooine for some reason?
Oh man. But that's the thing. That's the thing too. Is if you think about Episode 4, when he meets Chewbacca, right? It's not like he's ever said he never met him before. Like he just says, he literally turns to Luke and just says, "Chewbacca here is first mate on a ship that might suit us."
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's Chewbacca. Maybe he meets Chewbacca for the first time.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I do think there'll be there's got to be surprises. I mean, there's got to be stuff that you're just going to be floored with, But
yeah, it could even just be R2 and C-3PO because apparently, I mean, how many missions do they have together through all the Clone Wars and everything? Maybe the droids will just show up.
That's true too. Yep. Because I mean, Bail has them. He gave them to Captain Antilles, but Captain Antilles works for him, so they're definitely still around.
Yeah.
And I think the bounty hunters are definitely
that's a big one.
Cameo worthy,
Yeah.
Or it could be R. Singh, it could be Boba, it could be Cad Bane, it could be Bosk, Dengar. I mean, I feel like that could have been Forlom that was on the trailer. So IG-88. I mean,
it'd be some fun ones.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see some of them. Besides that, I don't know. I couldn't think of. I think Commander Cody is probably top of the list.
That would be a cool one. A lot of the ones we mentioned last time we talked about this, but Commander Cody's a new one. That would be cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Ahsoka? Could Ahsoka show up?
Why not? She's got a relationship with him.
I know.
How cool would that be?
It'd be really cool. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And maybe that would lead to how she knows about Luke when she sends Mando to go find him in Mandalorian. She runs into Obi Wan and he says, "Hey, I'm This is my mission. I'm tasked with protecting him now, and that's where she finds out Anakin had a son.
Yeah,
that would be pretty emotional. That'd be pretty powerful to see.
It would be.
And then you've got the 2 live action versions of Obi Wan and Ahsoka together on screen after Clone Wars. That'd be cool. All right, well, that is pretty much all we got for our conversation. But I want to ask you, what was your favorite moment, Vizsla, from this second trailer? I think you kind of talked about it already, but what was your favorite moment on this one?
Yeah, it definitely was, like I said, the conversation between Owen and Obi-Wan, because I've always been curious on how much they interacted, how much Owen knew and truly knew about the story, and it seems like he does find out almost everything. And it has to be with conversations with Obi-Wan, because at this point, Obi-Wan's the only one that knows.
Right.
So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing those. And the fact that those 2 characters are still played by the same actors from 20 years ago. Like, that is amazing. I think that is really cool to see. So, I'm looking forward to that dynamic.
That's the love of Star Wars. Even the actors love this stuff. They have a chance to come back and do it again. They come back. It's great.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, geez. I want to be in Star Wars. I want to be immortalized.
I know. You're forever, your likeness is forever etched.
Yeah, exactly. If you become a character that fans love, well, my moment is kind of, it's up in the air, because my moment was all based on that scene when I thought Obi-Wan was down on his knees looking like he's captured, and then it cuts to Vader putting on his suit pieces. I mean, if whatever that culminates to, that I think it's the moment when he sees Vader or Anakin for the first time again. That is going to be my wow moment, I think. The first time they face off each other, and because Obi-Wan has never seen Anakin as Vader yet, so when he sees that, when he gets that reveal, that's going to be the moment. Cannot wait.
Yeah, that is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, fans. Well, as always, we want you guys to be part of the show when Obi-Wan starts up in 2 weeks, May 27th. We definitely want your guys' feedback. We want to hear how excited you are. We want to hear your theories. We want to hear your reactions to these 6 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So send us in your feedback, and this is how you do that.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can send in feedback to theMandaLorepodcast at gmail.com. And also join our Facebook group. Otherwise, if you don't, we'll put a bounty on your head.
All right. Well, the last thing that I want to talk to you guys about, last thing I'm going to mention, is we do have another special episode coming out, hopefully before Obi-Wan premieres. We are interviewing a very special guest, a very special friend of mine. Her name is Victoria Suter. If you remember or follow my Legends podcast, you remember that I interviewed her on there because she got to guest star on Legends of Tomorrow alongside Katie Lotz. And she has now gotten herself into a Star Wars project. There is a series of fan films on YouTube called Bucketheads, and it's all about the life of a stormtrooper, and she is playing what I think is probably the first female stormtrooper we've ever seen on screen, other than like Captain Phasma, but the actual regular old stormtrooper. She is one of them, and this is about her life, part of a stormtrooper squad. There's been a short film, there's been a couple episodes, it's a brand new series, and we're going to be interviewing her on this show to tell us all about it, because their newest episode in this YouTube series is premiering 2 days before Obi-Wan on May 25th. So we're going to get as much info as we can out of her. We're going to get her to talk about what it's like being a female stormtrooper, probably the first one, and we're going to get her to talk to her about her suit and all that fun stuff and what it's like, because it's a pretty big production. For a fan-made film, this production value is off the charts. It's amazing. I will post all the links. I did throw them up on the Facebook page, but I will post all the links for the interview so you guys can check that out when that time comes. So look forward to that. It's going to be a good time. Good guest. We don't get a chance to have many interviews on the show, so this will be a fun one.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's all I got, guys. Tweet us at theMandaLorepod or join the Facebook group. Just look up The Mandalore. We'll talk to you guys soon. This is Siber Wren signing off. I have spoken.
Can't wait for this show to start. Divisa, talk to you guys soon. This is the way.
The Mandalore is not affiliated with Disney, Lucasfilm, or Fairview Entertainment. This is a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only. All music and sound effects are solely owned by their respective properties.